For those of our audience who aren't familiar with Semann and Slattery, can you just give me an outline of what you offer for our early learning services, OOSH, in the sector?
Absolutely. So we're no longer a teenager. We're an adult now. We've been around for 24 years. And it began in a really humble way of wanting to have an impact. So my background is in early childhood, and we really wanted to make a difference. And it was started by myself and my business partner, Semann Slattery. We found a piece of timber, some old Besser blocks on the side of the road. We bought a second-hand printer for $20, and we could afford a ream of paper. And we started the business off really wanting to get people to want to think differently about their work, because in our mind, to do different, you have to think different. And so we work broadly. Well, our motto actually is transforming organizations and people. And we work broadly around professional development. We do research. We do evaluation work. And I can give a little explanation to each one of those. And we help government roll out initiatives. So, we do the professional development piece, which could be webinars, face-to-face PD. We hold conferences, and we do work in centres. So that's the piece we do there. Coaching, we coach people online. I work a lot in the education, school, and early childhood space, working in an executive leadership space and pedagogical leadership, that kind of coaching. But we go into sites, and we can do on-site coaching and mentoring for services. And then we do evaluation work. So if government is rolling something out, they come to us and say, we want to know if we make an impact. Can your team develop an evaluation framework, follow this project over 4 years, 5 years, evaluate the impact of this, and tell us if we've made a difference? And then we do the rollout of some programs. So some examples here in Australia, we have the tender to roll out the professional development for funded 3-year-old kindergarten programs, which I've been delivering now for nearly 2.5 years. Thousands of people have gone through that.
Wow.
And so we support government in writing those websites, developing the tools, developing the professional development, and rolling it out. So
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. What a wonderful opportunity that our government have to work with someone like yourself and Colin as well. And that background is just, oh, wow. So the best of blocks, timber, and a ream of paper and a printer.
And, when we first started, we didn't even have enough money to pay ourselves. So we had to clean houses on the weekends to make money to pay ourselves, because we just weren't making money. And it's a testament to us around absolute belief and determination. We often say, if you believe in something, giving up is never an option. It's never. So we just keep going and going and going and going. And, we're a modest team. I think there's about, maybe 25 staff now. And
I was actually going to ask you that. How many are in your team?
Yeah, about 25, I believe. There's Sydney, there's Melbourne, and there's in Queensland teams. And they're just the most amazing group of people who are committed to this educational project and helping people being the best they can, whether it's directly working with children or with leaders working with staff. We want to, build that potential in people.
Yes. Oh, look, and look, I find working in the sector is just an amazing place anyway. The people are just brilliant in it. And then to have someone like yourself and Colin supporting from the back end is just, just amazing. So you mentioned you come through the early learning sector. So with that, how did that prepare you for your role today?
That's a really interesting one. So I began as what they used to call an untrained assistant. And I worked alongside these amazing women who really supported me to be curious. I worked in a great centre where it had a history of innovation, but a history of curiosity and pioneering women. So I was in safe hands. And I remember then getting my degree in early childhood. thinking, oh, now I have to leave because there's not a spot for a teacher. And the I went up to my center director with a resignation, and she said, "What?" And I said, "Well, I'm now a teacher. You don't need another teacher." And she looked at me and said, "Why would we lose someone who we've supported? The more teachers we have, the better." And so, I was a young teacher working under a really amazing teacher. And I stayed there for years learning the trade, the artistry of teaching, then moved into leadership roles. I used to manage an Aboriginal centre in Sydney on the block in
Wow.
Redfern, and that was amazing cultural grounding and knowledge.
What year was that,
In the
Anthony?
90s. Yeah, yep. So it was really,
Interesting time.
yeah, it was interesting times. It was fantastic. And yeah, then moved into the professional development space for an organization, moved into government for about 5 years, managing programs. And I just saw that there was conversations that I was being part of, and people wanted to talk to me and Colin, and wanted some other things. And we thought, hey, you've got to dive into the deep end sometimes. If not now, then when? And we just took a stab at it, put a couple of courses on, crossed our fingers, didn't make any money, cleaned houses, kept going, and it's that opportunity to want to learn all the time, because I truly believe people can get bored, and you need to give them fresh ideas that is relevant to where they are but stretches them to where they need to be.
I couldn't agree more, and that's testament to you and Colin, of course, to see the leaps and bounds that you've come in 24 years, which is fantastic, and also the knowledge that you're sharing with that with the sector, like you said, the importance of that learning and keeping the ideas fresh is where we grow.
Absolutely. I often share with people, Paula, that the most amazing teachers are what I call hunters of knowledge. The world is so rich, the world has so much information to engage in. We need to hunt ideas, whether you're in a gallery, whether you're reading the paper, whether you're stopping at a building, reading the plaque. There's so much that can feed the mind of a teacher and an educator that when the teacher stops thinking, the children stop thinking. And so it's our commitment to always hunt ideas. And that's the motto we have here as staff at Semann Slattery. We need to keep it fresh for ourselves. Why you see me
Wow.
in galleries
So
on a regular
with
basis.
Yes. So with that then, how what do you see then as your most popular or most requested training topic?
Yeah, there's two things there that I think are often uh, desired by people. One is on documentation, pedagogical documentation, and I can talk briefly about why I think, and the other one's on leadership. So maybe I'll start with the leadership. Colin and
Yeah.
myself, Professor Margaret Sims and Dr. Rhonda Forrest, were doing some work for the Victorian government over about 3 years. And we were collecting data as part of this around what's happening for leaders. So it was a leadership program. And what became really evident, and we published the paper in the International Journal of Teacher Education. What became really evident is we have some really good pedagogues, good teachers in classrooms. And because they're good, we then think they're great leaders. Being a
Yes.
great teacher doesn't make you a great leader. So then these people are elevated
No.
into leadership and realize very quickly that classroom pedagogy is very different to leading people. So we find ourselves regularly being asked to come in and coach people around how to lead effectively, to run professional development programs. So many organizations will get us in for like a year or 2 years to work with them monthly for whole days, developing a suite of professional development for either leaders or right now emerging leaders, because they know that they have to invest in the leaders of the future. So the leadership piece is important because people find themselves sinking quicker than they can swim, and they know the net effect of not leading effectively. The other piece is the documentation. So in the era of over documenting, people are finding themselves sinking, and they're confusing reporting daily life to families. So what happened today with documentation as an assessment tool. And so they're writing all this stuff that happened throughout the day. And then they realize they're not assessing children's learning. And so then we get called in to help people understand how to plan, how to collect data, how to analyze the data, and how to use it as an assessment piece. So you mentioned the word leadership, you mentioned the word documentation, and the floodgates open, Paula.
Yes. Oh, I hear you. Now, I was going to ask you, do you find that sometimes you're talking about, like, the over documentating, overdoing things, but not really doing the assessments of the children's
Yep.
learning? Do you think that that is being created by overuse of tools, whether they be software, whether they be paper, whether they be something where that the staff using it or putting it out there don't understand how the tool works or how to implement that from that leadership perspective?
Yep, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think the other issue is we have made commitments to families that are unachievable. That is, that daily you'll see a post, you'll see a photo. And so then what suffers is the art of teaching, because have a guess what someone's not doing when they're strapped to a computer typing something up. There's someone who is missing from teaching your child. And so there's this, unfortunately, it slipped into the realm of marketing our services, saying to families, oh, you'll get this every day, you'll get a photo every day. And, I didn't train to be a journalist. I didn't train to be a gram holder of a child's life. I was trained to be a teacher who makes a difference in the life trajectory of a child. So we've slipped into that, and people are suffering. They're absolutely suffering that they've made a choice, because to untether families from that is really difficult. So sometimes the most important road is the hardest road to travel, which is the analysis of learning and the theorizing of what happens. And, some of those tools were meant to be helpful, but we have just taken it to an extreme. And no one knows how to say no anymore to families.
Yes, I have heard of a few services who have stepped back, and it is a process to go through. Do you help centres do that?
We absolutely do. We want assessment to be authentic. We want assessment not just to be reporting daily life to families, but I'll sit with a service and say, "Tell me why you document. What is the purpose of it?" And look, some of their purposes are fine, okay? But again, they're juggling too many things. I often say to them, stop looking to the left of what people are doing, stop looking to the right what people are doing, because you're going to hit a pole that's right ahead of you. They,
That's a great
they keep on
analogy.
copying. Oh, the center down the road does this. The center down the road. You know what? Innovate, don't imitate. And we're so stuck
Oh, I love that saying.
imitating that no one's going to innovate. So I say, just pull back. But are you brave enough? Because it's pointless going on this reflective journey if you're going to tether yourself to the tools you have and not going to step back. So we do that.
That's
I've had
right.
a client who doesn't have a lot of money, so she's just investing in 3 1-hour mentoring sessions online with me to help her reimagine. And I have sites who say, come and work with us for a year, see us from beginning to end, give us feedback. And I do this with governments. There's a particular state government that puts their services through mentoring with us. We're in our 4th year, me and the team, and we do monthly catch-ups with
Wow.
sites to help them understand the power of assessment.
Because I know you just mentioned earlier about reflecting on that journey of change and things, because that's what we are actually all doing in the sector. Is we do those reflections, we do those critical reflections as part of our movement towards the NQF. It's all where we're working to, and that's what that is about. Is actually reflecting the journey and making better decisions, which then impact the child.
Absolutely. And no one wants to work in a museum of practice. Like, you don't want to go in and say, oh, that's so 1984. I mean, our work, I'm also trained as a sociologist. My master's degree is in sociology, which helps
I've
see
read
things
that.
in interesting ways. And I often say to people, as humans and as systems, we are always under construction. We're always evolving, and it's that commitment to transformation that people are attracted to. We don't want a museum of practice. We want our work to be underpinned by the most recent evidence base that makes a difference to teachers and children.
Oh, absolutely. And look, and then with that, so we've talked on the leadership training, the documentation training. Is there anything else you'd like to add into there as a requested topic with documentation, or is it sort of
Well,
all come around together, doesn't
yeah,
it?
I mean, I do a lot of work with sites running sessions for families on behaviour. Um, I have a particular slant on behaviour. I am anaphylactic to the idea of behaviour management. I see it as human manipulation. I don't want someone to manage my behaviour. I definitely don't want a behaviour management plan written about me. And if someone does it, all I can say to them is good luck, all the best. Let's see how you go. I,
Do you know what? I can imagine that.
Yep, I dump the idea of behavior management and I lean into relationship management, because I can tell you what, the people who have the biggest impact on our behavior are those who love us and care for us. When they give us that little tap on the shoulder and say, "You're not being yourself today. What's going on?" They don't write a plan about me. And the challenge is that when children have disorganized behavior or life is in chaos, what we need to do is lean into that relationship, not step away. Because I'll tell you what, Paula, children are tourists in an unknown world. And our job is to be the best tour guides for them and help them discover how to live in this world, not to judge them.
Wow, Anthony, you have got the most wonderful wise words. Just those snippets are just fantastic on how we should look at
Thank
life.
you. I think a
That's
lot about
brilliant.
life, and I'm an absolute committed teacher, and I'm always thinking about things, and yeah, I'm glad it comes across.
And transforming and doing it better, and that it is really comes down to that critical reflection, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That's that's where it all starts from. Now, with that, what gaps are there that you see in the sector where we could basically improve?
Yeah, look, I think at a policy and procedure level, at a centre level, we all need to know what are the desires and drivers for children. I mean, I happen to serve on a committee of a childcare centre. I'm the president of a community-based centre in regional New South Wales. Colin is also on the committee. We are trying to translate our ideas into practice, but we also are committed to giving back. And we're doing innovative things there that I think are worth thinking about because it does meet those gaps. So simple things, Paula, like we fund people's qualifications, we fully fund it for them. If you want to do a degree, we will fully fund it. You want to do your diploma. The other thing we do is when you are on your prac, have a guess what? We still pay you. You don't need to take annual leave because which in our cert centres can go out without leave for 10 weeks without pay. We have a culture committee that meet monthly. The staff come and speak to us directly about what they want. We've just had a beautiful retreat. We take them away for 2 days a year to do a beautiful retreat of ideas. So I think what we need to do as people who work in the sector is create space to hear what people need. You can't keep giving people what has been and expect them to follow it because these are wicked problems we're facing. The boat is leaking more than we can get people in. And we're just
Absolutely.
about to embark on enterprise bargaining with our staff at the centre. We said to them, "We think you deserve more." And they're like, "What?" We said, "So come and tell us what you want." It started.
Who says
So,
that?
I think there's that systemic stuff that we need to think about um, rather than feeling like we have to roll out the same old, and expect people to be attracted to it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at some point we've got different people, different generations, and different ways of learning coming through as well. So, no, that's
And we
amazing. That's
don't want
amazing.
this work to be a placeholder in people's lives. We want this to be something you dedicate your life to. You know,
It's
it's
a passion.
absolutely, it's like Bell Hooks, who's the famous African American writer. She said, you have to dedicate, it's a vocation. You dedicate your life to it because we are caring for the mind, the body, and the spirit of the youngest learners on the planet. It's a vocation, not a vacation.
It's yes, absolutely. Now, of course, with all of the professional development we have out there, and there's so much that we can now see available to those in the sector. Are there any particular ways or media and modalities that work better for some topic areas over others? I know you mentioned mentoring earlier, and then providing that year-long training. How do you apply what works where?
It's a good question because, look, there's always going to have to be a diversity of ways of delivering. We know that it's how the world operates. But we can maximize whatever you're doing, we can maximize. So if someone's coming to a one-day conference, so we hold an educational leaders conference every year, we get thousands who come to it. And I say to them, there's only a certain amount of tickets we can sell. So it's not about getting a bigger room, but I say, come with someone that you work with. Because what do we know? The research from New Zealand says the biggest impact is when you're in the car going home talking about it. So we always say to people, come with a friend that you work with because you don't want to hear it on your own because the translation has to happen with others in the workplace. So if you come to PD, come with someone. Coaching and mentoring is a really lovely way. It's bespoke. It assists people to hear their issues in a safe, secure place. The evidence is clear. Your mentor should be outside of your reporting line. It should be someone outside. Hence why we're flooded with coaching clients because they can vent, but we can be honest with them. Absolutely honest.
Yeah, yeah,
The other
yeah.
thing that I know works really well, and we do a lot of this, is practitioner inquiry. And by that we mean is as a center or as a team, you find a question and we will spend the year working with you, trying to cultivate the answer through data collection, through applying. So I've been working with a school now for 3-4 years doing action research. That's all we do. Every month I go there. I spend a whole week working with every PLC, every professional learning community. So the ones in teaching year 1, year 2, then year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, and leadership, they have one question. They explore it for the whole year. And we work with them to collect data, analyze their data. That real focus on I've got a niggle that I have in my head and I want to experience and unpack this in a systematic way. So it could be, Paula, someone says, I want to know how to support children become more pro-social. Okay, big question. Let's think about it for a year. And that
Because it
it
does
does
take a
take
year.
a year. And it starts with what's going on in your center. Go and collect some data, take some observations, make some video recordings. Let's watch the video. Let's pull it apart. So we know that systematic focused approach makes a difference as well. But we also need the inspiration piece. Hey, come into a conference feeling
Yeah,
inspired, going away. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And like you said, in that car afterwards, what did I take away from it? And how to share that with your work colleague to make it impact it back at your centre.
absolutely. You
That,
know,
that's where it
we've got
is.
our big conference next year, the Inspire conference happening here in Sydney. 1,000 people. We want them to be inspired. We want them to walk away with their heart really full, going, I can make a difference. You know,
How do I get a
you
ticket?
go onto the inspireconference.com.au while tickets are still available. Sadly,
Yes.
the conference dinner is fully sold out. We have a collaboration with the Museum of Contemporary Art the day before. That's fully sold out. That sold out within a month, where educators go, they hear some lectures on children and the arts. Then you get a private tour of the museum, and then you go upstairs and you work with artists for the day. That's all sold out already. And here's the thing, Paula, I didn't even get a ticket.
So I'm definitely not getting a ticket.
Inspireconference.com.au. The program is out. We've got some great international speakers coming. People need to feel like their heart is full. And so you need to create those spaces for people. Yeah.
And also provide that you were saying earlier about the approach you take, the systemic approach, because quite often what we do and what I notice is it's
Yeah.
anecdotal. and we can't really work from anecdotal. We need evidence because that's what we do. We're working to improve something. We need to work where we improve from. So evidence would be important.
Absolutely. And as a protagonist, as the person who's nudging people in professional development, I often talk about the epistemological shudder. I want your brain to go bzz, bzz every once in a while because you hear something that unsettles you. Because the things that are most uncomfortable are the things that we will never forget. And there has to be someone who gives you a new idea that's worth hanging on to, but who pokes you to move forward. I often say to people, I can be the best thing you've ever had or the worst nightmare. Depends if you want to change. Because as a coach, I'm really clear. You've got to change because your organization has made a significant investment and you would want to be the most extraordinary person you can be.
Absolutely, and that's the whole thing about, yes, when your approved providers or your owners or operation managers are investing that money, they're obviously seen or they've got the evidence to say we need to make a change and do that professional development for our staff. And that's what's so important, to get that focus down to the people you are coaching.
Absolutely. And it's an investment that we need to see the change happen. It's not only the attendance to the professional development, it's the backfill, it's the travel, whatever it, even if you're online, someone has to replace you in the classroom. So
Yes.
we all have a commitment to taking an idea back. I say to people at the end of PD, what's one thing that excited you, one thing that challenged you, and one thing you're going to do about it?
Wow. Wow. Honestly, we could do a podcast on all of your wise words from this one.
Oh, thanks.
That's something for next
Yeah.
year,
And look, the other
Anthony.
thing I'll talk about is we run this curriculum club and we've done the curriculum club and an Indigenous encounter group where people come together monthly for a year. And we put a reading folder together and we unpack and debate big ideas. So those regular encounters with the same cohort online has proven to be really successful.
Wow, because that's once again that takes that time
Yeah,
to gather your thoughts, look at what you're doing, and bring it to the
absolutely.
table. And look, just to finish off here, we've got so much information. It's a pleasure to hear you talk. I love listening to you, Anthony. The what are the challenges for the sector that you'll see on the horizon that specialised professional development could help address? I know we've got
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
know.
challenges.
I think there's often a lack of conversation between tertiary institutions and providers like myself, because usually people come to us once they've hit a crisis. What we need to know is, where does your qualification end and how do we dovetail on that to take you to the next level? The challenge is even tertiary providers of formal qualifications don't talk to each other. And so I think one of the challenges is, how do we see professional development as an ongoing part of your role? I say to people, don't go to what you like, go to what you need. Because I run a lot of sessions on beauty, children's right to beauty, and on the aesthetic codes of education. Like, I just love talking about that. And I had this woman, she came to the same whole day session 4 times. And I went, am I not getting the message across? And she said, I just love this session. I said, but you have to stop coming because you don't need it. We all like to go to things that we love, but you also have to go to the things that you need. And so part of that is, I think one of the challenges for us is, how do we build a system where you don't avoid the tough topics you need to learn? Um, but, we also need people's formal qualifications to echo what's needed out there in the sector. I'm still hearing people
Yes,
coming out of
yes.
training saying, oh, I learned when I was studying that you have to put an outcome on every document. I said, where does that say in the regulations? You've been taught the wrong thing. So we're often having to fix the problem of the wrong messaging rather than augment what people know.
And sometimes it's the
Yeah,
translation, isn't it, from that teacher, and the way the person has taken it on board isn't necessarily what that teacher meant either. It's just the way that they've read the legislation or the framework, and gone, oh, that's what they meant. I've got to do that every single
Correct.
time.
Or, sadly, haven't read the most contemporary evidence.
Haven't read. Yeah.
And are still
Yes.
stuck in the era where people think you have to put every communicable disease on your front door of your centre.
And even moving forward from paper, even moving forward out of that paper, framework where I've got to print everything off because that's what the assessing officers want.
The gift of technology is it's accessible. We can share information. We cannot become archaic and hold on to things that don't meet the modern world, So, getting onto the digital space to share policies, things like that. At the centre where we're on the committee, it's one of the first things we said. We said, right, we're flipping everything online. Policies are online. You check off that you've read it online. You've got your own, I don't want here is the paper, let's hand it around. It's just the dinosaurs are around us, people.
Yes, I hear that often. No, we can't move from the paper. We've got to stick with the paper. And, look, yeah, we could talk all day about that. So that's another topic again. So we're going to get you back again, Anthony, because I know when people listen to what you've just had to say, we will have requests for you to come again and do our leadership masterclass and our chats about that next level of development. So before we do finish up, we'd love to ask about personal mottos or wise words or mantras. Do you have anything that resonates with you?
I'm going to tell you something which is really interesting and strange. Hey, but we're all strange, just some of us don't tell other people. I once read that the late Queen, before she went to sleep every night, they put perfume on her. And so every night before I go to bed, I put perfume on me. And I put the Kim Kardashian gardenia because it stinks so much that if they find my body, if I had passed away 4 days later, I'll still smell okay. So number one, I always put perfume when I go to bed every night in case something happens and I don't wake up. But then when I do wake up in the morning, I just go, great, I didn't die. And then I say this every morning, I didn't wake up to be ordinary. I'll tell you why. We are all inspired by people around us who are extraordinary. And extraordinary doesn't mean being vivacious and being out there. It just means you don't have to be the best, just do your best. And when I see someone doing their best, they didn't wake up to be ordinary. And life isn't short. If you count the hours you've lived, it's long bloody time. But it becomes short when we waste our time being ordinary. So I love to think about that. And when I get home every night, if it's 1 a.m. from the office, whatever it is, because I don't sleep long. I'm a 3-hour a night maximum sleeper. I do go to bed at night thinking, what difference did I make? And it doesn't have to mean to others. It just mean to myself. What did I learn? How did I grow? Yeah, so my motto is I didn't wake up to be ordinary. And I've been saying that to myself for 15 years.
Well, and that actually, even what you just said then resonates very strongly about, it's not about the difference you made to someone else, it's the difference you make to yourself, because that in itself impacts others.
I want to live a good life where I've grown and I know that it's been a worthwhile endeavor, this journey in life. I don't want to look back and go, I wasted it, Doesn't matter how short it is, make the most of it. And it was Professor Barbara Friedrichsen that said all emotions are contagious. So if I come in with a particular emotion like vitality or curiosity, I'm going to infect people. So here's the thing. There are those people who light up the room when they walk in, and there are those who light up the room when they walk out. Don't be the second person.
That's awesome. And look, Anthony, thank you so much for today and sharing your wise words, wisdom with us. And look, thank you to our audience for joining us. We'll have notes on the show in our blog and also links for both Anthony and Semann Slattery. So you can follow their activities online and maybe come to the Inspire conference if there's tickets left.
20 March next year in Sydney. Check it out. And it's been a real honour.
Yes.
I'm really honoured to be given this platform to speak to your clients and educators out there. Thank you for making this space available. It's a real gift.
It is. Look, and I appreciate your time. And honestly, it was I loved interviewing you. It was a brilliant afternoon, Anthony.